All right, we're back. Um, so I'm coming off fixing an error at work that was ended up being 6 characters. It was a trailing div didn't belong there that caused Vue to get really angry at me and give me this awesome error message. It was syntax error 23. That was it. But we ended up figuring it out. So um, same thing happened last night on Whack. So as soon as I got off the stream, kind of figured out what was going on with some other issues I was having. So I'll go through that real quick. So if you remember, we were having issues. We actually had a lot of progress yesterday, which is great. But we wrote a test for our composable. I think we made a. Did I not push that up? I might not have. I totally didn't. Bad Dustin. We'll go through it. We'll go through it now. So this is not what I want. Maybe it is. This is what I want. Yeah, we'll do channel test. So what we were running into is our Axios instance. For this channel test, we'd have to log in and then go try to create a channel. And these composables are using a shared Axios instance, which you would think would keep the cookies across requests. Well, I was looking around, and found this library called Axios Cookie Jar support, right? And this basically makes it so that this is really, I think, more for Node environments, but it stores, whenever you have a set cookie response from a server, it stores that cookie in a cookie jar, which is just a big kind of bag or jar of cookies. But anyway, even after doing this, it wasn't working. But it would work on, it wouldn't work inside the test suite, but it would work on like our normal API, like if I ran it and then had like our little poke it with a stick script, I could use that and it would work just fine. So I racked my brain over and over and over, and ended up trying something wild, which we're going to have to revert now that I know what's going on. It's like this can come back. This needs to be here, or it should be here. But in our authenticate function, I tried the wild idea to set secure false and just see what happens. And I did it here and on our auth controller when we set the initial cookie. And all of a sudden, everything started working. It's like, what in the crap? This has to be a bug in Cookie Jar or in Axios Cookie Jar support. And I kept going and going and going. And then finally, I was like, I'll try running it on a different port, blah, blah, blah. And it was like the last thing I did last night. I locked eyes right here. So when you have a secure cookie, it only is served over HTTPS, and the spec is like literally the URL starts with HTTPS. It doesn't matter what port you're on. It doesn't matter any of that. Is the beginning of the URL HTTPS? Yes. Okay, I'll serve a cookie, or I'll send the cookie. So that's literally what's happening here. Is our Express environment does not run over SSL, so it won't serve those cookies ever, no matter what you do. So now we're kind of in this position of, first, we need to go turn all this back on. For security reasons, you don't want cookies kind of flying over the wire in plain text. So we're gonna leverage that SSL connection to do that, to encrypt those. But now we're in the position of needing to back some things out. So like here, this should stay 0. It should just bind to a port. I don't really care what port it's on. We need to find anywhere where we're referencing that port. So it's 333, and there's nowhere else, so that's good. This needs to be HTTPS, but we're also, when we start this, we're going to need to wrap this in an HTTPS server and listen, not just have the Express app listen. So we'll come back to that. Actually, there might also be a way we can just pass the keys to the Express app and have that work, which will be fun for tests. Either way. Shit, there was something else. We don't need to do this. Oh, I'm not entirely sure that we even need this library. With that change in place, I really wonder if this will work without the whole cookie jar thing. Because what I wanted to share this code across the node and the front end. So if our backend needed to use Axios, it could. But now that I say that out loud, our node app isn't going to be able to like just require this because this is written in that in ES6 like module import fun. So maybe I don't worry about that all that much. But in the case this is the Axios instance that's used by the browser, I don't want all this cookie jar shit flying around because I'd rather just let the browser do what the browser does. That said, it's not the end of the world. So let's see. Let's get SSL going here first. So let's see. Express docs. That's Express.js docs. I don't want pants. I have pants. I'm wearing them even, but I don't want them now. So we're on 4. This 5 alpha has been there for, as far as I can tell, more than like 3 or 4 years. So I don't know what's up with that. That's something else I've got on my long list of go look at this. But taking a look at Koa, K-O-A, it's kind of an Express replacement written by, I think, the guy that created Express. But there's probably some drama in there, and history, and bad blood, and all that I have no idea about. But okay. I want the reference to this thing. App.listen. There it is. Can I pass a key to you, sir? Doesn't look like it can. So we'll just copy what we have for our HTTPS server. So bin www. It's literally going to be this. And here we'll say server equals that. These paths are relative to the current file. Let's see what happens. I think if we run this, it'll probably work as long as we run it from the root. But this is something I've been meaning to go clean up in bin www too. So if it doesn't work, we'll come back to it. So I'm gonna create this server. I think I tell it to listen on the port. Yeah. So I need to say server.listen on any port. Config.server.hostname. And then what is backlog? What in the heck is backlog? Oh Lord. I bet I don't even need it. I bet I can just say resolve. There's probably like 50 million versions. Yeah, there you go. There's the version we want. JavaScript's like that. It's like you pass 3 arguments, 2 arguments, 6 arguments, and it wildly changes the behavior of the function. One day I'll be smart enough to go write a function like that, but I'm not really convinced it's a good idea. Oh, so we don't need this one anymore. All right, so we've got a simple Express canary thing that we can use. This express.canary. Let's see what this does. Cannot read property of undefined. Oh. Oh, yeah, we didn't import a bunch of stuff. That makes a lot more sense. So we need HTTPS and FS. Cool. So let's go make that fail just to make sure. And then we'll hop back over the channels test. The goal for tonight is to write a test for our messages, and then if we do that fast enough, we'll get into some UI stuff. And actually start kind of cloning Slack, the look and feel. All right, so that's good. Let's go to channels.test and pop that. Won't need this anymore. We'll say just channels.test. Awesome. So we didn't really assert anything. We just created a channel, but the fact that it didn't fail means we're further along than we were yet last night, because what we were getting is that when this request would run, that shared Axios instance wouldn't have the cookie, so you'd get a 401 not authenticated response from the server. So now that that's there, this whole thing should pass, because we had it passing in a Pokeball stick test. But we'll see. Yeah. This is something I'm gonna have to think about how to handle, because the way Axios works is there isn't like a, set insecure true to get it to trust a self-signed certificate. You have to give it an HTTPS agent that's configured that way, and we can't do that in the browser context, because all of that's like delegated to the browser. So like while we're testing here, I considered something like there's actually, believe it or not, a package called like, what is it? I think it's browser or node or something. Let's see, like, I might have actually put it in the what's that? Let me put it in here. I didn't. Browser or node. So there's an npm package for literally everything, but all this is a bunch of uh, expressions that tell you whether like what environment you're running in or whatever. So we could bring this in, and it's really simple. Like I think the node one is just looking for like is process defined, is process dot something defined, is the process dot node defined, is process dot node dot version defined, and if it is, you're in node. So my thought was like, you could say const HTTPS is undefined. If is node, then define it and pass it in here. And then in a browser context, this will be undefined, so it falls out. And the actual arguments, I think, something different or whatever. But in Node, it would be defined. So then our tests, it would do it. Fuck it, let's just go ahead and do it. I hate talking like about shit like this because then I get distracted and like this isn't very useful. But we're gonna go ahead and do it. Simply because if we don't, I have to remember to set this environment variable every time I start this project, and I don't know, I'll end up forgetting to do that. And annoying me, like 2 weeks from now, I'll forget to do it, and then hit some issue and wonder why everything's broken, and it'll take me 30 minutes to figure it out. So, Axios, insecure, something like that. Yeah, this thing. So here you'd say const HTTPS equals require HTTPS. We'd set up this agent. So agent. This would be called agent. And say let. And then here we'd say HTTPS agent. Just go ahead and call that the variable. Right? So now in a node environment, I shouldn't need this environment variable anymore. So let's do that and run it again and see if it fails. So I have to actually bring that in. There's no support for it. Okay, that needs some phrasing. Or does not support for use with other HTTP agents. I think I remember something about that. I wonder if we even need this. Let's try to just get rid of it. If we do, then we'll back out this HTTPS change, or we'll go spend like a minute and a half looking through their Git repo and see if there's something, something going on there. So let's see, console error, cookie token required. So that means it's not sending the cookie anymore. So we don't have the cookie jar for the cookies. What's the name of this package? Axios HTTPS agent. Now can I use both cookies and HTTPS agent configuration? Looks exactly where we need to be. Perfect. Let's see. We need to bring this in. All right, and I don't need the HTTP one. I just need this one. Let's make this a little bit smaller so I can read. So cookie jar we got. The agent is here. And we're just setting that. So this would be here. I wonder if we even need the jar there now, or if this will work. I bet this will work. Well, we only run this on node. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's what we want because we want this to be like on the browser, just the normal browsery thing. So in the browser, this would be undefined. Okay, we're good. I'm good. All right. Hmm. Hmm. The other way to do this is to actually trust that self-signed cert on this machine, and that would work. For now, we're gonna go back to this, and I can work this out off stream. So we don't need any of this. Go to jar again. Get rid of all this. I'm gonna keep that browser node package around. I'm gonna play around with that. Okay. So now let's make sure we're back in a working state. And we're gonna move on. Cool. So this will be channel feature test. Let's go do messages real quick. Hopefully real quick. Okay, so we have send, which should just take channel and body. I believe. Let's go look at our spec real quick. It should just be channel and body. Yeah, channel body. So over here, we'll say send to channel this body. Now this will have to do the whole base64 encoding thing when we send the actual request. So this will be a post to messages with channel and body. But here we will base64 this. So this will be interesting because there isn't a node implementation of like A to B or B to A, which are the normal like browser JavaScript base64 encoding decoding. I'm actually interested to see if there's just a node package that polyfills it. There probably is. And we really just want to grab like the most popular one. 11 million, 14 million. So we'll just roll with this. Does this have B2A or is that a separate package? Oh my God, it's a separate package. No way. That is so lame. Well, we only need the one way. If we ever need the other way, we'll have to remember to go, install this. Is this what we want though? Emulate so by A2B. Turns base64 and cut it back to binary, so we actually want this one. Binary data into base64 encoded ASCII. Yep, that's what we want. We'll make this a dev dependency because I don't think we'll ever use this in production. In production, the Node app, we would use just a buffer to do it. Oh, not Boda, B2. So we'll browser or node. If this might not work, if is node, then we can't import here. This is gross. I don't even think we can reference that from here. Maybe we can. Yeah. I guess it should be global even though it's... This is only here for the just test suite. The other thing... Yeah, it's just gone through the other way. So this ends up running in that express environment that extends from node, the node environment. If we extended it from the JS DOM environment, then it would have access to this by default. It's probably more we want. I just don't know if we can run that Express server inside of it, but probably something else to look into. So let's let me make a task to do that. Investigate facing express environment based on to have access to window globals. Anyway, so this should get registered if they're, otherwise it'll just be available in the global scope, so we can use it like that. So let's say B64 body equals B2A body, and then this body is B64 body, right? So now it's base 64 encoded. And we'll make a comment here like markdown content must be base 64 encoded before creating the message. All right, so response, let's create the message. Response to data will return the message out the back. Find by ID, easy enough. That's done. Find all should just be this. Join leave isn't a thing. Delete is a thing. So, you know, well, say del. Can't use delete because it's a reserved keyword JavaScript. So it complains at us for doing that. And, you know, we could use archive or whatever, but that's more, that happened to work for the channels because we're not straight up deleting them. But what I don't really understand is how Axios gets away with this, and they probably do something like Axios delete equals a function, and then they go to town with that. Which we could do something like that here, but actually don't know if you can do like something crazy. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Anyway, this is fine. So that'll delete the message. That's all we need right now. Let's stall find by ID. I think we had an update. I don't remember. I think we only allowed them to change the body of it. I'm pretty sure. So let's make our update method. It'll be similar to this. It'll only receive body. And we'll set a put. We're going to update a specific ID. So this will send a put request to that message URI or message resource, and then here's its new body. And then we return it. So that should be the implementation. Now we got to go write our tests after the fact, because that's what you do. So how about we send a message, we verify collection has one, we verify the one it has matches original, then we edit it, verify that, delete it, and finally verify collection has 0. So the first thing is we're going to need to bring it in. So let's say use messages from messages, and then we're going to bring in all of our operations. I like to, and this is really this is how, if you go learn TDD, it's just how it's taught. But they kind of they organize tests in this like AAA format. So you've got arrange range. This would be the act, and then assert. So this is a bit of a, like, we're making this super test or whatever that's kind of going over everything. But you can imagine, like, you know, in an ideal world, your tests have very small amounts of assertions and only one action in them. But in this case, like, our act and assert is kind of going to get repeated over and over. We're doing multiple actions and then asserting as we go. So I'll try to call that out as we start writing it. But it's like, you know, this would be like query get specific message. So it's almost like act, assert, edit it, assert, delete it, assert, over and over and over. But all this stuff up here is just kind of like getting the stage set to be able to send a message. So you have to log in, you have to create a channel. It's just how it is. So that said, like, I started to just import my messages stuff up here. But I think what I'm going to do is leave all this up there, hanging out. And then down here, I'll do that import. So we'll bring in send from use messages. And then we'll kind of work from there. So we're going to send a message. We'll say send to channel ID. And we should be able to say channel ID. This whole like channel ID versus channel RID RID is still tripping me up, but it is definitely something. It's something we need to have. We don't want like auto incrementing IDs flying around URLs and all that mess. Hello there, friend. Don't do the ... Don't never do the ... It's misleading. So we should get a message out of this, right? Now let's verify our collection has 1. So we can say expect await list all. So we need to import that to have length of 1. All right. So there's that. Now we're going to get a specific message. So we'll say fresh message equals await find by ID. And this will be the message ID that we pulled previously. We're just pulling another copy of it. And then we need to verify that it matches the original. So we could verify the bodies match or the IDs match. We'll stick with the ID. So we'll expect this fresh message.id to be message.id. And I just thought of something. These are all refs. Well, no, these aren't refs. So we're good. In our other tests, we had like the use user composable tracks token and current auth user. Those are refs. So we have to remember to do like user.value to get the actual value of it. We don't need that here. This is just a normal object we're passing back. Okay. Something I just thought of that would be nice to have is when I find by ID, we should go ahead and base64 decode that body. Just so it's like ready to go. Otherwise, the front end is it'll be confusing. Like the front end won't have to encode the data, it'll just use the function, but it will have to decode the data, which will just be inconsistent. So I'm going to go ahead and install this, and then we'll come back to that and get through the rest of this test at the very least. So we're going to edit. What did I call that? Update? Probably just called it send. Yeah. So we'll say update. We'll pull it in, update, pull in find by ID as well. All right, so wait, update. This will be message.id, and then an updated salutation, friend. So I think this will return our message, but what we're going to want to do is go ahead and pull it again, and then we'll set an expectation on this message, this body we set. So actually that'll serve a great purpose of, it'll fail because it'll be base 64 encoded, and then we can go fix that, and then we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So let's expect await find by ID message.id body, and we're gonna, this looks a little weird, we're gonna get it out of our system, and then we'll clean it up and make the test read a little bit better if it doesn't, if it doesn't look clear off the get. So yeah, so this should read like we're updating, setting it to this, and we expect it to be this. So I might extract this string into a variable or whatever. Sometimes you do that type of thing and it actually makes your test less readable. So there's something to be said for it just being out there. All right, so the last thing is we were going to delete the message. So wait, delete, no, just del. Connects does this. I hate that it's just del or whatever. So I may come back and find a way of just putting that in there. But I have to delete and then attach it to that function or whatever. At the very end, you can do crazy shit like this was just function. I could say use messages. Well, technically we can do this. Let's do this. So internally it's still del because it's a reserved keyword, but externally it's exported as this. And then I can say delete. Maybe. No, it's still reserved. Yeah, I don't know. That's annoying. Not a big deal though. User's never gonna know. So delete takes ID. So it should be gone now. So if we came back and did this assertion again, but set it to 0, that should be what we want. So let's run this and see what happens. Go ahead and throw some comments in here, like send a message, retrieve a message. You know, think too, like I honestly don't know that. Why would I ever retrieve a specific message? And it may be when we implement like threads and stuff, that may be it. Like maybe we include the thread on the message, but it's too soon to know like how we want to organize that in the API. If it's single thread, then yeah, we would just have the message and then the thread would be you'd have new messages that are associated back to that message instead of a channel or whatever. Or associated with both. Update a message. These comments are so excited. All right, so we can say just messages.test. I'm gonna try to watch this and see what happens. I just noticed one thing we forgot. Oh no, it's here because we copy pasted. We have to, anytime we're going to use this like full stack setup for actually hitting the API, we've got to remember to use this jest environment. All right, update is not a function. I'll be damned. But we're not exporting it. Now it is. Now it is a function. Give me that next error. So there's our base 64 encoded thingamabob. So we already installed the other A to B function. So now we need to come in here and be like var A to B equals require A to B. It is complete. This is Node. This is 100% the Node community. These could have very easily been in one package, but they're in two because you'll need one but not the other 99% of the time. I say that like, I know what I'm talking about, and then we were saying we would only need one half of it, and then we had a bright idea here. So we'll need to actually do it on both of these, right? So what we can do, you can do it straight up here on the response.data. You would just do like a maybe not find a ID, but like list all. You do a map function, and you could replace the body as you map through. So like, let's do that real quick. Say map message, and then it'll be all the current message stuff, but body will be base64 decoded. But when you read this, it's almost like so be message body, not just body. I don't know. I mean, you might leave it and just walk away, because it is kind of clear what's going on. But I almost would prefer like a simple return and do the work here, and then return that result out the back. But it's not a big deal. So here we need to update that response. So we could say response.data.body equals A to B response.data.body, and then return it. Now, these functions, if they're spec compliant, should throw exceptions if it doesn't get base64 encoded data. But if you remember, our controllers, or I guess the model, is verifying that and returning an error if they're not base64 encoded. So like when I said model, it should be in the model. Well, you can make it an argument either way. But it's actually in the controller. So when we create, we do this is base64 validation. So they can't technically get a message in. This would be, so the argument for putting it in the model would be, I can go use that model in a backend script or something, and I can technically create an invalid message that'll poop the bed whenever I go to actually use it in the API. So I should move the rule there. The argument for in the controller is that, you're doing validation of inputs to determine if, the thing is a valid request or whatever. I don't know. It's a CRUD app. So, the line of code is going to be somewhere. We can reorganize it later if it causes us an issue. Honestly, I'd probably let this sit until the day I did exactly what I just said I made a script, I made a message, and we hit a bug where I created a message that did not have a base64 encoded body. Anyway, okay, so it looks like our test passed first, which is clap clap, good to go. There's still so a lot of these should be kind of rewritten a little bit. Well, let's play around with it some. So like here, we're going to use something new we haven't used yet. So you can use these describe blocks. So say we're going to describe the what do I want to call it? The messaging core narrative or something like that. And then inside of here, I'll need to actually write my tests or whatever. So these describe blocks are kind of like a way of grouping several tests together under one scenario or whatever. So here, you would do all this setup kind of up here like we already have. And instead of having this comment, I could have a test sending a message. And then async. Right? And then do the same all the way down. The issue you do run into is like this message won't be available out here because it's out of scope. So it's something you have to think about how worth it is. An argument can could be made too. It's like this test should run isolation. This test should not depend on state from this test. But it is what it is. So we could organize things this way for our purposes. I'm not going to worry about it. What I will say is that, you know, when we get to the point where there are special rules around any of these, like I can't think of any right now, but like if certain users could send longer messages than others based on experience level they have or experience they have inside of WAC, then that would be kind of a business rule where you would want to say, okay, well, this is what sending a message behaves like when you're a plebe, and this is what it looks like when you're like a elite coder or something like that. You get to send, 10 megabytes of message versus 120 characters or whatever it is. But I don't see us ever implementing a feature like that unless we're just trolling. Now, that said, we're writing an application where you're going to make a doodle to log into it. So, we are kind of trolling a bit. So here's our test. We're good. So as far as our model goes, that's pretty much everything. And like, again, I've kept like I'm fanboying over it, but this whole like composable thing I think is going to be great because this is all tested now. We've got proof that it works, and in the same time we've got usable code for the front end, and we've got examples of how to use it. So think about like if you're on a team of developers now and you've gone off and kind of like set up this framework where you have access to authentication, channel management, the channels API, the messages API. You've set it all up for front-end developers to use. They can just import this and use it. And there's certainly more work that could be, more improvements to be made here. Like, it'd be nice if, if there was ever validation issues or whatever, this would return errors that made sense or were like prettified a little bit. We should be catching some of these exceptions and wrapping them in easier to deal with exceptions, more oriented to the front end. There's a bunch of other stuff we could do here, but this is a solid ass first start. And it sure as hell beats just making all these different queries and stuff, like tying this to specific components. So yeah, I think it's going to be great. One thing I do kind of, it's been nibbling at me a little bit is this doesn't really make sense to be user to me. This is more like auth. And you happen to get access to a reactive user and the reactive token. But it really is just authentication. So let's update our test. Use authentication. And just for fun, let's go ahead and run through all our tests. Make sure everything's green, commit. And then we're going to close out this code or the pull request. Let's see. Assertions DB. I think I'm going to end up probably throwing this away. We've hit this error a couple of times, and I don't really want to deal with it right now. What's this one? Oh, this is my stick. I don't need this. If that's the, okay, so we got more failures. Use user is not a function. So let's go look for use user. And we're going to replace it with use authentication. And then we'll run this again. Cool. Let's take 5 seconds and look at this. What is this complaining about? whack test users doesn't exist. So it probably doesn't, because that other test using the JS or the Express environment is probably killing it. Um, we'll try to validate that that is the issue. If it is, we'll just let it roll. This technically sets up an Express server that this test doesn't need, but no one's going to come arrest me for that. Um, that said, I keep making comments like that. In my head, I'm keeping like a mental tally of some of these concessions that we're making as we kind of move through. At some point, we do have to go patch it up. In this case, this is probably one of the only tests where we'll be interacting with models directly for a while. But I could imagine having just a database environment that does everything the Express environment does, but doesn't start an Express server. We might even get like super wild with it and make database environment extends node environment, Express environment extends database environment, and then you have like your layers there. So if you need everything, get the Express, and you just database, get just a database. But since we took our database stuff out of global setup, that's why that database doesn't exist, and it's also why the test passed now. Give it the environment, they pass. That's what it was. So anyway, let's commit all this. Ooh. Coverage on composables. Enough to start UI work. These tests are going to fail on GitHub for a while. What's happening is these now have a dependence on MySQL, and the GitLab, or I keep saying GitLab, the GitHub runner. We're not bringing in MySQL, and it should be easy as in our GitHub workflow. There's like a services key we can set, and there will be a MySQL. We can bring that in. But I'll probably take care of that off stream and then quickly just go through it. But simply because, like, in my experience, when you mess around with this stuff, we'll go add a key, you push a commit, see the build go, and it works or it doesn't. But it takes like 5 minutes to know. And then we do it again. There's another 5 minutes. Do it again. There's another 5 minutes. So it'd be like the deadest. There would be no activity going on. It'd be us just watching a console together. So I'll go do that and then come back and we can go through the changes I made. Anyway, we'll call this one nailed down. So we actually have three. I need to get them posted to YouTube. There's 3 streams for this line of work. Because I didn't want to. It felt like just keeping it all together, but we just had limited time to do everything. We ran into a lot of little weird issues too. So this is a pretty big little merge pull request to get merged in. Pretty big little. It's a very southern thing to say. All right, so let's go back to our project board, get it up to date. All right, what even was this? Oh, this was our, like, how to get the database going and all that. So we're done with that. So I did look up what Connect's DB Manager was. Basically, it's a package that's there to help you create databases and remove them. All the stuff we've done already with our tests. It's just that what the approach they take is you end up setting up like a super user that has access to the database to do all these different things, and it gets its own connects config to set all that up. We don't really, this is a level of complexity I don't really want to have in this project. I kind of would rather, yeah, you have to do some stuff by hand, and another library could do it, but it's nice to just have express environment or database environment that just clearly like procedurally says that we do this, we do this, we do this, duh. And you don't have to, if you're learning from scratch, it's nice to have all that there rather than having to like fan out and figure out, oh, there's this connects DB manager thing, and there's this connects thing, and there's this cookie jar thing, and all that. So in a production environment, probably would use this. We did this. I think we have tested more than a lot of people already. We'll consider these 3 last streams our dedication to testing, and we've done this. We actually did more than just this. We did our channel API and auth API as well. All right, so I'm gonna ignore. Let's see. I'll do this. I'll do this. So I have a whole stream on this. There's no way to fill an hour with that. So we'll sprinkle that in here and there. Actually, let's do one of them right now. App.js. We brought in a middleware called Cores. This is like cross-origin request something or other. Cores. Cross-origin resource sharing. So what this library lets you do is like, let's say this API gets hosted at whack.chat. With a proper cores policy in place, only JavaScript hosted on that domain can make requests to that API. So you end up on the server configuring an origin that is the set of URI or host names that can access your server. So we've got a very insecure setting right now where we're just saying, anybody can access it. And this is a product of me thrashing, trying to get the cookie jar problem solved. When in fact, this right here would be a more appropriate setting. And then this would basically default it to like the current host or whatever. So I'll fix this later. We're going to leave it right now because I don't want to like break things and get into it. But definitely worth a look. But setting all this up, like this ends up setting a lot of these, let's see if they list them here, the headers. Yeah, so these access control out origin headers, and there's a couple others that are like you can control what HTTP methods they have access or verbs they have access to, which headers they have access to send to you. But this package takes care of dealing with all that and does a pretty good job. Otherwise, you'd have to put like a match all route somewhere, and you would set them yourselves on like every request that comes in. All right, so address owners, controllers. I think I want to do this next. Yeah. We'll do this and then kind of we get our login page and all that stuff set up and phone in the Doodle password and then come back and polish this up later. But it'd be nice to start actually, building out our little Slack UI. So if you've never seen Slack, and we're getting a little over an hour, so I'm probably not going to do too much of this tonight, but we'll kind of introduce tomorrow's stream a little bit. So you're probably familiar with what Slack is. There's just looking for like features or something. Yeah. So yeah, this just a chat app or whatever. They replaced whatever you were using before, probably because you could easily put GIFs in it and share media and had emoji and reactions, and it was hip. Um, but this is kind of what we're going to be building. So features that we'll be leaving out of ours is the whole like multiple workspaces. Probably not going to put that in the first iteration of this. It's something that we can easily add later too. You, it'd also be a good kind of example of how to set up like a multi-tenant system, which I'd say the advice generally is like if you know you're going to do that, do it up front and have everything built off of it. But I do, and this isn't totally not planned, but I do think it'd be valuable to like purposefully not do that. And then our learning opportunity is okay, how do you retrofit a current legacy system to be multi tenant and then drive that out? Um, so there's going to be a lot of flair in here. Like the channel list, definitely want to do the whole like mentions and reactions, threads, drafts. Probably won't make it in our first few cuts of this. The features around being able to categorize channels, I think we're just going to have a channel list and that'll be it. Um, but the goal is to kind of think the whatever the MVP, the minimum viable product for Slack was when they got it out the door initially to get it on the market. That's kind of what we want to focus on, and then all these other features we can kind of organically grow out as we go. So, users will bring in, we'll have to add avatars as part of this. Name, so this will be like, imagine this is our message model. There's our author name. Here's the message created at time. Here's the message, base 64 decoded data, or the body. But then things like this preview image here won't make it into our first draft. It'll just be messaging. And they'll have like, you can mouse over the message and like click edit, make changes to it, that type of thing. We'll go ahead and do. The other thing I do want to do eventually is Slack is, they have like a web interface for us so you can chat like just in a browser tab or whatever. But there's also a client that's using a package called Electron to run the web page like in a window. And really under the hood, Electron is just kind of wrapping a Chromeless Chromium instance. So Chromium is the open source version of Google Chrome, or it's the open source upstream for Google Chrome. So it's still like a browser, but it behaves like a native app. And you do have some access to kind of native appy type things, like opening up a file browser that points at your, like opens up a file browser on your local machine, stuff like that. So let's see, need better screenshots here. Yeah, so honestly, this image right here kind of sums up the MVP we'll be shooting for, minus direct messages, which we're gonna do, but we gotta stay very, very focused to get something out quickly. But yeah, out the gate will be, since everything's gonna be in Markdown, we'll render all these messages in Markdown. So we'll get some of this formatting kind of out of the box. It's just gonna be nice. So yeah, what I'll probably do for tomorrow is I'll never pull up like my Slack instance because I don't want to leak a bunch of shit from work or anything like that. But I'll probably plan ahead and get some screenshots that we can work off of. And the idea is going to be, I'll be working in Tailwind UI or Tailwind CSS, building out the UI, and we'll have this picture kind of off to the side that we can compare against. And if I get fancy, I'll set up like a source in OBS to like have that always visible, and then the browser always visible. I'll figure out some way of laying that out with the space the space we have. But yeah, I think it's gonna be fun for sure. So so that said, I know I said we'd start on it now, but I'm starting to get a little sleep, and this is gonna be we're gonna be working on this for a couple days, I imagine. Um, so yeah, we'll start on it tomorrow fresh. Um, so yeah, with that said, I'm gonna head out again. Discussions are open. If you have any questions or just kind of want to talk back and forth, emails on my GitHub panel page. I think my Twitter's up there too. If you want to DM me, um, and honestly, I think it'd be really cool to get. I did buy Whack.chat, so it'd be interesting to, as soon as we can, get an instance of Whack hosted somewhere, and we could just use that as like a chat platform for talking about the project or whatever. Um, but I may set up a Slack instance in the meantime. That'd be honestly a better way of getting like screenshots and all that too, is to have kind of a blank slate place where I can do all that. So anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. I'll be online a little bit later tomorrow. Got some stuff going on in the night, but it'll probably be like 11:30, 12 when I get on. But if you can't make it, I'll have it on YouTube, and then on Wednesday I'll be back like 9:30. So anyway, y'all have a good one. See you later.